Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and crush $74,000 of debt as someone who makes about $5,000 a month, right? So we have plenty of debt. If you take a look here, we have two credit cards, two student loans, one auto loan, and we don't own a home, we're paying rent, right? And we have about $1,500 in expenses. And after all expenses are paid, including our debts, we have about $728 in savings, which is not bad, but it could be much better, right? And so what we're going to do is use something called velocity banking to help us pay off this debt quickly and also help us manage and control our cash flow because a lot of people have cash flow management problems, especially a lot of six-figure earners. And if you've never heard the studies done recently, at least 50% of six-figure earners are paycheck to paycheck. I can't imagine being six figures paycheck to paycheck because once upon a time I used to make 20 grand a year and I was like, "Oh my goodness, if I could just make 50 grand a year, my life would be set." Right? And again, there are a lot of people out there, where they make good money, they just don't know how to manage their cash flow, and I kind of think of them as lottery winners, right? Why does a lottery winner go broke? Because they don't know how to manage their cash or their cash flow. Okay? All right. So here in this example, um, we have a budget, and actually, there's only two requirements to do velocity banking, which I go over pretty much every single video. First requirement is that we have a budget because the budget is going to tell us where our money is going and what debts we're going to pay off and how we're going to essentially recover our cash flow because every debt that we pay off is just more cash flow for us, right? Step number two, and I don't know why I'm laughing, is we need a line of credit as our operating account. So what's a line of credit? All it is a financial tool where you can borrow money, pay back, and use it over and over again. That's a line of credit. So if you have a credit card, that's a line of credit, but there's also other types of lines of credit, like a personal and home equity line of credit. So for example, or actually for this example, we'll say we have a $35,000 personal line of credit available to us at a 50% interest rate. And again, here's a thing that you won't want to know about banks. Um, Banks don't lend money to people who need them. And so when they encounter this strategy, sometimes people get mad because it's like, well, I need money right now, and how am I going to get like a line of credit? Now, here's the thing: if you have a maxed out line of credit, use that as one, maybe use one of them as your main operating account, right? And I think people think like, oh, you have to have a line of credit at zero in order to do this, which is not true because I've shown examples where somebody had like a $50,000 home equity line of credit, and then we use that as a main velocity banking account, right? And so with that account, it was like $50,000 limit, $49,000 balance. It was crazy, okay? But whatever it is, your line of credit is going to be your main operating account. And so what's the only difference between the average American velocity banker is that the average American uses a checking account to pay for things, which leads to something called segregation of income, right? So you get your $5,000 paycheck, and then how many ways is getting split up? It's getting split up into how many debts do we have here? We have six debts. Okay, no, not six debts, five debts, right? So we have five debts, and because we're essentially just making minimum payments on everything, that makes it harder for us to manage our cash flow. And not only that, we have all this interest that we're paying. Okay, and so what we're going to do is just put our money into one line of credit, and we're going to try to prevent that segregation of income as much as possible. Now, here's the thing that we assume when we're doing velocity banking. Okay, first thing is that we're not making more income. But if we do make more income, that's fantastic. And you want to use this strategy to pay off your debt and increase your income at the same time. But when we do these demonstrations, we don't assume more income. And then the other crazy thing that people will think you're insane for is that you don't have any savings, right? Because all of your income, the actual strategy is income into the line of credit, expenses out, and rinse and repeat over and over again. That's how easy the strategy is, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to um, re-engineer, remodify our finances so that we can get more cash flow um, and pay off our debts quicker, right? Because that's the name of the game. So what can we do? So how can we modify our finances to increase our cash flow? I know. Why don't we transfer this debt, these two credit cards, right? Credit cards is like the easiest scenario to win with velocity banking. Like you don't have to think about what you're doing. Now, when you mix in credit card debt and loans, that gets a little bit more tricky. But credit cards in general are the ones you should just definitely pay off easily. And let's just do a simple debt transfer, right? So this is about 20, actually, is it 31K? Yeah, it's $31,000 of debt. So let's move this $31,000 of debt into our personal line of credit at a 15% interest rate. Okay. So not it's a win in two ways. So not only is it a cheaper interest rate, but we also increased our cash flow, and we magically went from $728 in savings every month to $1,786 of cash flow, right? And so now what we're going to do is use our cash flow to pay this down. So I'll show you a couple of formulas where you can, and I do the same formulas every single time, but you want to calculate the next month, and then the next month is essentially going to be the previous month's, or and I'm talking about the balance, the previous balance plus the previous interest. And I always screw this part up because I forget that H is right after G. But the previous month's balance minus the previous month's interest minus your cash flow. So your cash flow is 1786.65, right? And then when you're at month zero doing this, there's no interest, so you don't have to calculate at month zero. But once that first statement comes out, we need to get the interest calculated, and we do it by getting the average daily balance. So what you do is take the average here, multiply it by the interest rate, which is going to be 0.15, I mean, and then you divide by 12 because you're going to get the monthly interest, and the interest rate they usually quote you is the annual interest, APR. But let me just do this. Let's say I don't divide by 12, right? Like that would be insane to have to pay $4,000 of interest a month. That's like two mortgage payments, right? So a lot of people don't understand how credit card or line of credit interest is calculated. You got to divide by 12. Technically, they do it another way, but it's going to be a very, very similar result. So now let's go ahead and copy and paste this and see how long it takes for us to pay off this credit card debt, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So right here, you can see that it takes us about 20 months to pay off the two credit cards within our line of credit. And let's just go ahead and write this as a milestone. So this will be 31K of debt done in, what did I say? And I have bad memory. Sometimes I just say something and I totally forget. And actually, let's highlight this right now, right? Highlight this yellow, we'll color it red, in 20 months, okay? So 31K in 20 months, that is not bad, okay? All right, so now let's go ahead and now we paid out the credit card debts. Well, essentially, we have these three loans, and you might be freaking out because it's like, what? We're going to use a 15% line of credit to help us pay off these student loans? Yes, right? And the main thing that we're going to do is because we have increased cash flow from paying off these credit card debts, now we're going to figure out which of these loans to tackle. And the first thing we should actually do is figure out after 20 months what the balance of these loans are. And you could figure it out by using a loan amortization calculator. So if I go in here and let's go type in Google loan amortization calculator, and I like using Bankrate. I like using calculator.net. Um, I think calculator.net is easier to kind of work around. It's a lot more direct to the point than Bankrate, but they're both good. All right, so now let's go ahead and figure it out. So if we're at $20,000 of student loan debt, okay, and we'll say that the student loans are fresh debt, like so when we started Velocity Banking, maybe we just graduated college, but we'll say maybe we've been paying the auto loan for quite a while. So we'll see how this works out. But all right, so it's $20,000 of debt for about 30, no, 10 years, because student loans are for 10 years. And let me go in here at 4.5%, okay? So now what we do is just do 4.5%. And here's the thing, sometimes I get so lazy, I don't even want to do this, but whenever I do exercises, I might not be this exact, but I think just for the YouTube videos, I want to be a little bit more accurate. But $20,000 at 20 months, so let's see month 20 at what the balance is, right? So at month 20, and then at month 10, so I'm not sorry, not month 10. Student loan at 5%, and then this is going to be month 20. What the balance is, it's going to be about 8 grand. Okay, we got that. Oopsie, wrong screen. All right, so we got that, and then auto loan 13,000. So we got to figure out what the original balance is, and let's just take a look here. So I think it's going to be like 22,000, and for 5 years at a 6% interest rate. And so let's do 21,000 because it's 425. Almost there. So 2,500. Yeah, so good enough. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually maybe 2,600. Almost there. 700. Yeah, we got it. All right, so at $400 a month. Now what we got to do is figure out where we are in the car payment. So we started at 13K. So 13K, I guess, is around here. And then we took 20 more months, so now it's going to be month 44. So 44 is going to be only 6 grand left, right? So 6 grand left. Okay, excellent. All right. So now we got to figure out, all right, am I tackling the student loan first, or am I, or one, two, which student loan or the auto loan? Because we only have 3 debts left here. And so we want to figure out is which debts are we going to take off handle first, right? And so there's actually two debt payoff criterias. So what you do is you look out of those loans, you figure out, okay, what am I going to focus on? The lowest balance, the highest interest rate, or the highest payment. So any loan that fits in those three criteria as much as possible, you'd want to pay that off first. Another way that ignores the interest rate, and I think a lot of people focus way too much on the interest rate, is something called a cash flow index. So it's the statement balance divided by the monthly payment. And you could kind of think of it as a ranking system, but the lowest number is the one you want to pay off first. And I'm going to show you the cash flow index. Okay, so basically statement balance, so 17258.06 divided by the payment 207.28, right? Let's do this one. 8729.44 divided by 106.07. Okay, let's just do this one. 6138.87 divided by 400. Okay, so you see these numbers and you see that the auto loan is the lowest number. So again, think of it as a ranking system, right? And there's actually more explanation to this. If you look up cash flow index, wealth factory on Google, there's a more detailed explanation. But think about that like this. Would you pay 17 grand right now to get only $200 back, right? Versus you pay 6 grand to get $400 back. Okay, so that's basically what it's saying. And the lower the number, the more bang you get for your buck for paying off the loan, right? Or the debt. That's essentially what it's saying. So let's go ahead and pay this sucker off. And since we're at $6,000, let's just move this to here, right? So I'm going to just move this here and put that in our line of credit. Okay. Now let's take a look at this. Because we did that, guess what? We increased our cash flow further, right? And now our cash flow is over 2 grand. Mind blown, right? Mind blown. So now what we're going to do is just now keep subtracting 2 grand. So it's 2186.65. So let's go ahead and do that. So 2186. So this is 21, right? All right. So now, all right. So we paid off that car loan immediate right after about two more payments. Now what we got to do is just focus on which student loan, right? So I might focus on this one. I mean, the cash flow index is very similar, right? So again, go with the lowest number. This is obviously the lowest number, but this also catches my attention because it has the lowest balance and the highest interest rate, right? Even though the payment is lower, I'll figure like, yeah, let's pay this off. And one of the things that you can do, again, you don't have to put the entire thing into a line of credit. You can do something called chunking, where you're just paying it in pieces and transferring the loan to the line of credit. But again, it depends. And actually, we have a velocity banking calculator for this. And I can just kind of give you a quick demo. Now, after two more payments, this isn't going to significantly change, or I don't think it will. So we'll just put this as the information. And this is provided by Renatus because I am a Renatus student. I learned a lot from them, and this is where I actually learned velocity banking from 2017. And full disclosure, I actually make money selling Renatus products. So I get a little bit of commission because I'm an independent contracted marketer. Now, let me go ahead and put some information in. So I'm gonna put this 8 grand, right, in this in right I'm sorry, right here in the current balance. And what's our original balance? It's gonna be 10,000, and the interest rate is what did I put? 5 or 4%? I put 5%, right? And it's a 10-year term. What is the actual payment amount? 106.07. Okay, 106.07. And one of the things I want to show you is that at certain points, just as long as your cash flow is high enough, the interest rate of the line of credit doesn't really matter that much, right? It kind of matters. Like, would I obviously use a 10% home equity line of credit to do this rather than a 30% credit card? Absolutely. But again, even at 30%, yeah, you won't save as much money, but it's really not that much more. Maybe at 1 or 2 grand, usually in my experience. But let's go ahead and just play around with this. So let's go ahead and put in our income. So how much is our income? $5,000. And I always forget, but now, what we need to do is just put all of our expenses except the debt that we want to pay off. So it would be essentially uh, 1, 2, and 3. So 2,500 plus 207.28. So that would be 2,707.28. So 2707.28, right? Now, one of the things I want to show you again, the if we just pay it as is, we don't really pay that much interest, right? Like, we only pay about $2,000 of interest, so we're more interested in saving time. But let's go ahead and do this. So I want to show what happens if we put the entire thing in a line of credit, right? So 872929.44, right? That's our chunk amount, and then right? So look how much interest we pay, and it's 0.3, right? So it's not going to make back that big of a difference, but we could do it in little chunks, and I just do 4,000, or actually like 5,000, our income. You see that you save about 20 bucks. So again, play around with it, but you realize that you know, if you want to just get rid of the debt and recover your cash flow immediately, there might be a little bit of cost to doing that, and I might say it's worth it. So let's go ahead and do that. So do 0, and then pay this sucker off. So we'll move this to the line of credit, and let me just demonstrate that here. So we're going to do that, and okay, now what is our new cash flow, right? So our new cash flow is 2292.72, so about $2,300, okay? So now let's go back to our line of credit again. All right, so now at this stage, it's going to be minus 2292.72, okay? Uh-oh, did I screw up here? Where did I screw up? So G25, so this 25 plus H25 minus, oh, you know what? It's the dollar sign. Okay. All right. So now what we can do is we just do this and then copy and paste. And now our cash flow, or I'm sorry, this is all paid off, right? And so after a couple more months, and let's take a look at to what the balance of the student loan one is. So at 20,000, and actually let me just take a look here. So let me actually write another milestone. So we paid off the auto loan. How long did it take us? So this is, I think, the auto loan. So at 20 months, okay. No, I'm sorry, my bad. So this is the auto loan, right? So 23 months is the auto loan. And how much do we pay off? It would be 44K and 23 months, right? That's our milestone. Okay, and then our student loan, how long did it take us to pay that off? So that'll be the next thing we highlighted right here, right? And so I'm going to highlight that. And it took us about 27 months to pay off that student loan, okay? So student loan number 2, which would be 54K. And how many months that would be? And again, it's late at night, and I just see, I just look at what I'm doing, and I totally forget 1 second after. 27 months. All right, so 27 months. All right. So you can see the more cash flow we get, the more of our debt payoff is accelerated. Okay. Now let's take a look at 27 months, what this balance is, right? So let's take a look at this balance at 27 months. And we're going to go to the loan amortization calculator for that. So 20,000 at 10 years, because that's the amortization schedule of a student loan, or the period length of a student loan at 4.5%. 4.5. Okay. Now we got to go to 27 months. Let's go to 27 months. So now, what is our balance here? It's 16 grand. And actually, let me erase this so I don't confuse myself, because this is now 0. This is now 0. And what's our new cash flow index at this point? So one thing I do want to mention is that the cash flow index for a credit card or a line of credit is usually the same throughout the life of that debt, because the minimum payment is usually proportional to the debt with credit cards and lines of credit. But with loans, because they have a fixed payment structure, or amortized loans have the same monthly payment whether you're in like the first month or the last month, the cash flow index always goes down throughout the life of the loan. So just be aware of that. All right, so now let's figure out what the cash flow index is. Equals 16248.85 divided by 207.28. So we can see that number goes down. So the question is, at this point, should we go ahead and put this entire thing into a line of credit, do it in little pieces called chunking? Let's go ahead and figure that out. So luckily that's what we have this calculator for. So this is going to be 16,248.85, 16,248.85. The interest rate is, what is the interest rate? 4.5%. Okay, 4.5%. The payment amount, which is not that much, 207.28, 207.28. Okay, so now we got to figure out what our chunk amount is and what our living expenses. Again, everything except for the loan you're trying to pay off. So it's going to be 2,500. So 2,500, 2,500. Okay. Now let's just play around. The only thing we can really play around is the chunk amount, or how much you're moving to the line of credit. But take a look at this. I mean, if you don't do this, you're going to pay an extra $3,000 of interest, which is really not that much in the grand scheme of things. So if you want to just make that minimum payment, go ahead. But I want to get rid of the debt, and let's just do this. What if I put the entire thing into a line of credit, this 4.5% interest rate, from here to a 15%? Oh, whoopsie, I forgot to put 15, whatever. All right, a 15% line of credit. So 16248.85, right? So we could see get paid off in half a year, and we pay $600 of interest. But let's do it in pieces, or what they call chunking, and we'll just do it about the size of our income. So 5,000. You could see that it's still the same payoff, but the interest actually gets cut more in half, right? So this is why it's important to kind of figure out the cash flow index, because the higher the cash flow index, the less likely you want to put your entire loan into that line of credit, right? So this is especially true with mortgages. You don't want to replace, let's say, a 2% mortgage with a 20% line of credit, like, or at least the entire thing. But if you do it in little chunks, you'll actually like see good results and you're able to maintain and control your cash flow. Okay, so now let's go ahead and assume I'm going to just do it in $5,000 chunks. How long is it going to take me? Half a year. I want to pay the minimum interest possible. So now, well, that's basically 6 months. So this is going to be zero, okay? And now we have 2,500 of cash flow with no debt. And so this is actually going to go into our savings after it's all paid off. And then it's going to be 5,000 and it's going to be 7,500. Oh my goodness, I don't know about you, but this is an insane amount of savings compared to the average American, because the average American is going to struggle with the $400 emergency, right? All right, so now let's go ahead and figure out how much we paid off. That's going to be 74K, right? 74K. We add it up, it's just another $20,000 of debt. Our goal is to pay off $74,000 of debt. Amazing. And it only took us, let's see, 27 months plus half a year. That would be 27.5. No, not 27.5. It would be 27 plus 6 months, which will be 33 months. Okay. And how much is 33 months? And let's go ahead and put that here. 33 months is 2.75 years. So basically, we paid off $74,000 of debt in 2.75 years with a $5,000 salary. And we paid off 5 different types of loans, right? 2 credit cards, 2 student loans, 1 auto loan, right? You ever see those student loan debt statements? Like usually people they borrow from multiple sources. So when I was a college student, I had like 3 payments that I had to make to. I don't know if they were different lenders, but or I just don't remember how it worked. But I just remember there were 3 different loans, right? All right, so basically we accomplished our mission. Good job, team. Hopefully you'll be able to practice your velocity banking skills and apply it in your own real life. Also, if you're interested in learning not only about velocity banking, but financial literacy and real estate investing, go ahead and click the Google form link below. We'll get on one-on-one Zoom call, see if you're a good fit for the group. Other than that, have a great day, and we'll speak next time.